Hey, it's Jim Peak here, and I'm so delighted to welcome you to AI Easy as Pie, the podcast where we talk about AI and show you just how simple and easy it can be to get started. And on today's show, I have a very special guest, my dear friend and my colleague in arms, and a new graduate of my AI Productivity Powerhouse weekend, Frederike Hofstra. Frederike, welcome to the show.
Jim, good to be here.
Awesome. We're going to have fun just talking about some of the concepts that we explored in our recent AI Productivity Powerhouse. And I just wanted to welcome you and ask you a little bit about how did you find your way into AI exploring? You're just beginning on your road, is that correct?
It's very correct. Actually, I would say that when I started your training, I kind of cheated. I said my level was a one, but it was absolutely zero, maybe a minus one. Absolutely no knowledge and a healthy or maybe unhealthy suspicion of AI. And so I figured this was a good way to learn more, better understand it, be able to make better decisions, better judgments, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I don't think you were overselling yourself at all. I think you're even stronger than where would you rate yourself now? How do you feel now after we only had 3 days, but where would you say are now?
Oh my goodness. I would rate myself at a 3, maybe a 4 from a not being afraid of trying out something, a new AI tool. I would probably rate myself a 6 or a 7. And I think that was one of my maybe my biggest gift or the biggest gift that you gave me in with this training is that I'm not afraid. I know I can figure it out. It can be imperfect, and that's okay.
That is beautiful. And that's exactly my intention of this show was to show people that it actually could be easier than they think. So, what advice would you give somebody who is just starting like yourself and they're saying, I'm a zero or I'm a negative one? What would you tell them?
Probably would tell them, contact Jim and ask him when his next replay or retraining is of this first 3 days. I was so enthusiastic. I talked to my husband about it, and he was like, "Wow, you learned all of that in just 3 hours a day? That's unbelievable." And I'm like, "Oh, you have not seen anything yet because now it's kind of like a snowball with all the different tools." I actually just updated my RPM planner and I created a project, AI utilization in my coaching business. I've created a virtual coach in ChatGPT to start practicing and see if I can teach it my language, my voice, my terminology, my way of talking, and see where that leads. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll create an app, right?
Maybe
Um,
you will. Yeah, maybe utilizing one of your new brainstorming buddies, you will. That's
I
fantastic. So I was just about to ask, tell everybody a little bit more about yourself. So you're a coach and you use RPM, Tony Robbins, results, purpose, massive action program, and you just put a new category into that for AI. But tell us a little bit more about what are you referring to when you say I'm a coach?
I'm a life coach. I started a year ago. I always enjoyed coaching and I got like a business coach degree like way back when. And a couple of things happened in my life in the last couple of years where I was like, okay, I am ready to start my new career. My current career, I've been in there for more than 30 years. I think it's time that I do something different and give back. I Over the course of my life, I've learned a few things. I think there's some wisdom. I think there's some experiences I can share. I can definitely encourage people and cheer them on in their journeys. And I joined the Robbins Madanis Training Center and thought I would start a coaching business in 3 years and then started it last year.
Fantastic. Awesome. So you really are blessing so many people and you're going to bless even more people with that.
That's the idea.
Yeah, that's the idea. I absolutely love it. So we learned a lot of different tools, and one of them was Google Notebook LM. And I introduced that tool as something that I had heard about for a long, long time, and it was highly recommended that I just go to Google LM and try to make my first notebook. And I just kept putting it off. But you jumped right on it. So tell me and us, tell the listeners a little bit about what was your first experience with this thing called Google Notebook LM?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect, but then in the training, you showed how one of the other students had created all this kind of notebook with all kinds of information that he had acquired. And so I thought, wow, I've documented a lot of notes about the trainings that I've done with Robbins Medalis. So maybe I can create my own notebook that way. And I did. And then and it's so cool because it's not limited to, I thought notebook, right? I use OneNote, it's just written text. No, I could link in public YouTube videos and things like that. And after I did that, it generated this audio summary that made me smile. And I've been listening to it a few times, and it really did a great job in summarizing the content that I had uploaded. And now I'm testing the chat functionality with it and asking it for study guides and FAQs. And I'm like, oh, this could be really helpful in figuring out content for blogs or on LinkedIn,
Exactly.
posts on Instagram, build material for any coaching courses that I might want to offer. And so I was like, every time I play around in it, I get more excited.
Isn't that so awesome? You feel inspired, you feel creatively juiced, you're ready to go, and it's so awesome. And if you were to estimate, if you I haven't even asked you about this before, how much time do you think that Google LM might save you in these efforts for creative content or in your efforts to help people shine in your coaching work?
Yeah, that is a little bit of a tough question, Jim, because I'm just getting started. And so I have yet to write a blog post. I have yet to create my Instagram post. And I hired a coach to help me create content. And then we're working through that right now. And this
So
is giving
great.
me additional ideas. And so she is a coach who teaches me how to write, how to structure, what to look for. She writes herself awesome material.
Awesome.
And now I have AI that can, I think you said it so well on that first day of the training. It's that imperfect first attempt
Yeah,
that will give you just enough inspiration to see a path like, oh, I could do this topic, or oh, I can talk about double binds. Who else has had a double bind? Who else lives in a double bind? Or let's talk about certainty. What are your vehicles for meeting your needs for certainty? Are those really helpful for you? Are they healthy for you? Are they good for your family or the people that your friends, people you love?
that's
And
so awesome.
so it's like you've got your own mini encyclopedia in a way, and
Yes,
it
that's
doesn't
exactly it.
I don't know about you, I don't think it really gives you the full article per se.
No, it
Um,
doesn't
it
necessarily, and it interprets things, and sometimes it can make mistakes, but it still is this combination between what you said, an encyclopedia and like a friend just talking with you. And so, as it's the area of your expertise and your growing expertise, ever continuing to improve expertise, you always watch it and go, okay, wait a minute, that was not correct. It didn't do that thing right. I'm going to fix that part, but the rest of it is so stimulating. It's encouraging of new ideas that you get to. And I love that you said you're a beginner, just getting going, because again, that's the purpose of this whole show. Is my mission is to help people just try that first step, just try it out, because there's so much change happening, and I want people to be able to use these tools to their advantage and to be able to help other people. So I have a question for you. And I'm not sure, if you have anything that you've been putting off, but my question to you is, Can you think, Frederic, is there some business or even a personal kind of challenge that you've been putting off that you're starting to think maybe AI will help me make it easy, like as easy as apple pie? Is there any
Uh-huh.
business or personal process that you've been putting off, a challenge?
You know, the reason I hired a coach to help me with content was because I found content creation very intimidating. I knew this past summer I was going to create a website for my coaching business that I started. And I think it took me a month before I started putting the first words on paper because I was like, oh, that's so intimidating.
Right?
How in the world am I going to do this? By the way, the website did use AI and it just created something and it's not perfect. And I still want to make some adjustments. And what I've learned through this training, through the different tools, is I can have AI work for me, not to me.
I love that. And you reminded me a couple of things. You reminded me of things. One is you spent so much time just trying to think of what is first thing I need to do? What are the first words I need to do? And you reminded me that when I was a young man and I went to college, I went with the dream of becoming the great American novelist. I wanted to be like Hemingway. And after 4 years of staring at a blank page, I ended up successfully writing like one short story. But when it became time to try to write a whole novel, I would just be so stuck in fear of rejection, fear of maybe ridicule, whatever it was. I didn't get past that beginning spot. And I wasted so much time. And that's what you and I are coming to really appreciate about AI is it leapfrogs you over that first stage. So you're not stuck staring at the blank page. You have something to work with and you can actually go from there. So you're using that to create content with your other expert guides.
Right. And I'm like, okay, on one hand, I'm learning how to structure content. On the other hand, I'll have AI that my notebook LM language model that I can just play with and ask questions. And then that the response simply can inspire me to say, oh, I could do something around this. And then I can go to the journey and create an image to go with it. Or I can go to ideogram.
Ideogram. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so it's what I put in my RPM. What's the result I want? But what's the purpose? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And I
Yeah.
want to help people and I want to be the best coach I can be so I can help the people the best way. My project now for within there is eye utilization in my coaching business. And it's simple as okay, how do I think I can use ChatGPT? How do I want to use Notebook LM?
Mhm.
How do I want to use 11 labs? Because
Right.
one of the things that I learned from the Notebook LM that I thought was so powerful is that it generates this automated kind of podcast with two voices.
Yeah.
And I learned that there's a way that you can digitize your own voice. And so I was like, and then I can connect the dots and become part of the podcast.
So awesome. That is so awesome. You're exactly right. You can do that. And that's the kind of thing that you're going to learn in the upcoming AI mastery formula. And I was just thinking about that today when I did a search, just just conversing with ChatGPT about all of the things like privacy, legal issues, with that question of if I put my book into this, are other people going to be able to use it? Are other people going to be able to see it? Is it something that I lose the rights? And I knew intuitively that I didn't, but I wanted to just see what I could do. And I was thinking about creating a custom notebook LM just on this whole entire question. And it gave me a really great answer that really was very helpful. But I got to admit, I'm more of a spontaneous, creative kind of guy. And two-thirds of the way through, my eyes were starting to glaze over. I was just getting bored. I was like, so I just asked chat, can you make it more entertaining? And it said, sure, let's jazz it up. And it started adding all these funny little statements to it. Don't worry about it, Sherlock, calling me little funny nicknames. And I thought, oh man, I want to put this into an audio format because when I have the chat GPT voice read it back, it's cute, but
Mhm.
it wasn't exactly right. So I too am so excited about using these other tools like 11 Labs to do things like create my own signature voice or to use their whole library of other voices. Another side thing that you can do with 11 Labs is you can have your favorite audiobooks read to you by Judy Garland. You can have it all.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So you can have some fun with that. There's endless opportunities to do this. What I'm hearing you saying is that you're excited about using AI to overcome the challenge of creating content. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's to overcome the challenge of creating content, that black page syndrome, right? There's a little bit of, okay, am I, am I an imposter? What do I have to offer in here? And then I read and I'll start to, and I think you're right that friend conversation makes it reassuring
Yeah.
to say, okay, yeah, I can do this. I see all these tools and they're inspiring me to do things that I hadn't even thought of. I would not have created a song with using AI or asked ChatGPT, can you write me a poem? Can you write me a lyrics? Here are some keywords. And then it comes out and that's pretty cool. Okay, I'll want to edit this. I want to tweak that. I'll do these things. But just to see that all these things are possible, I think Frank said it so nicely. Like he was like, I don't have the voice for it. I used to say I need to smoke like a chimney and drink whiskeys because I want to have that blues jazz voice.
Yeah, I'm glad he doesn't feel like he has to do that. We're talking about our friend Frank Chang, who was on the last podcast, and he was in this AI Productivity Powerhouse weekend. And he was saying he didn't need to put on all those funny little habits in order to get like the gravelly voice, right? And he didn't have to spend 10,000 hours learning piano. He really just loved being able to be so creative and take imperfect action. One of my questions that I was going to ask you was, what's the weirdest thing you've done with AI? Would you say that's it, making a song, or does anything else come to mind when you think of so far, what some weird thing that I've done with AI already?
I would say that probably right now it's creating a song or multiple songs actually, because once you create one for one daughter, the other one needs one too.
Thanks.
But ask me again in 3 weeks when I've been playing around more.
Great
And
answer.
once I start your extended training, I'm like, this is going to be so much fun. I'm like a
Really.
kid in a candy store.
It really is. So you have this category called AI utilization, and you're going to become like one of the first AI super empowered, even more empowered coaches. And you're going to be taking my extensive training and going through these different things to become really well versed in all these different tools in your toolbox. And you've mentioned your purpose, going with that RPM method, the result you want. How's it going to feel when you're really doing this? Like, even say, I don't know, 6 months from now, how is it going to feel?
I think it's going to be just so much fun. I can just see myself waking up going like, oh, I have a new idea for something, for a podcast, for a blog, for a product, maybe a coaching course. And I'll just be like playing around in my different areas. And I think it's kind of like when we eat, right? We have a fork, we have a knife, and we have a spoon.
Yeah.
And so I thought these were my tools for my coaching business.
Mhm.
And now I know there's a prep fork and there is a dessert spoon and a dessert fork and there's a knife and instead of just having one fork, one knife, one spoon,
Exactly.
there's this plethora of things that I can use to eat my wonderful AI meal.
That's
But
it
actually,
exactly.
yeah,
I think that's a great analogy. There's all these more tools that are adding more to your experience.
yeah. And I think what it allows you is to be more precise, to tweak it more subtly. And maybe it helps me to do those 2 millimeter shifts, the difference between great and outstanding, right? It's
Mhm.
just 2 millimeters. And I think these tools can help me identify and utilize those 2 millimeters shifts in a much more powerful and faster way.
Oh, that's so true. So it's going to give you all of these new tools that allow you to be even more precise. Who else is it going to bless? Who else in your world is this going to bless?
Well, when my whole business takes off, it will bless my whole family, anybody around me, because I'm just going to be a happier person. That's one.
That's productive and happy. You're going to be like super supercharged and moving forward.
Exactly. And I think so, aside from my husband, my kids, I think I'll have friends and other coaches, friends that are coaches or not coaches that are going to get inspired. And
Yes,
I think we will all become part of this acceleration and shift that's going to happen in this 2025 year where AI is just going to blow our minds. And with your help, I now am not afraid of it and I
absolutely.
enjoy it and I'm curious about it. And yeah, it's like going back to kindergarten and you get to play with all these different things and nobody's telling you like, oh, there's the
Exactly.
law of physics behind the ball that you just dropped. No, you just get to drop a ball and pick it up and
Yeah, we're
do what
playing
you
with
want
the
to do.
blocks. Yeah. Oh, I love
Yes.
that. Yeah, that's exactly how I always think of it too. Is it's just like kids. We're just going back and we're playing and we're remembering that it doesn't have to be perfect. So
Yeah.
that's fantastic. So I thought as you're going through this and you're getting to this new level of expertise with precision, who are you going to become? Who are you going to become, Frederic? If you picture what's this Frederic like that you're going to become?
I don't think I've seen really the true vision of who I'm going to become because who I thought I could become it has opened up more curtains or whatever you want to say. And
Yeah,
so my dreams can be a lot bigger and I can go much further. Maybe I thought I would just coach, maybe reach 10 people a year. And I think I'm going to be able to do much more.
that's awesome. That is so awesome. It's an ever expanding dream. I love that. You don't even know yet. And that's exactly the truth. It just is going to keep growing
Yeah.
bigger. So what I just did with Frederica is I used the REGEL framework that I briefly mentioned. And it was so fun to share this. It's 5 questions. Just what are the reasons you really want this? What are the emotions you're going to feel when you get it? What are you going to get? What are you going to gain? And who else is this going to bless? And then who are you going to become, the higher self that you love? And I wanted to share this with you, Frederic, because when I mentioned this framework and the acronym REGEL, REGEL, what did you share with me?
I said, hey, that's regel. That's the Dutch word for rule.
Yeah,
And And that immediately ties it back in my brain to a very logical sequence and something that I can use.
awesome. That's it.
Een
I
regel
love
voor
that.
de regel.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it as well. I'll mess it up. It really is the rule that helps us become supercharged, super powerful as we're moving forward towards our goal. So you mentioned something a few minutes ago, though, that I wanted to get back to. And it's this idea of taking that imperfect action and how sometimes in the past, now as we're growing and we're being supercharged with these new tools, we're overcoming these things. But some of our listeners might feel like they're not ready. They might feel like they might like either consciously or subconsciously say, am I doing it right? And what if I mess up? How would you respond to someone coming to you with that kind of thought? I think it's great. I'm open to AI, but I'm just not ready because I'm not sure if I'm going to do it right.
So it's funny that you mentioned that. Am I doing it right? Used to be a question that I would ask myself all the time, particularly in creative processes. And I would be my worst critic. As we're talking about it, I was like, oh, yeah, I would learn to play the piano and I would hear every individual error that I made. Not very encouraging. I did photography, and then you would go into the dark room and use the developer and develop your pictures, and you would hold it up and you go, that's just not quite right. And some people would say that's the pure art of creation that, like Ansel Adams, you beforehand determine your exact outcome. And then you say, okay, in order to create this, I'm going to use this camera, that lens, this film. I'm going to wait for these weather conditions and I'm going to make sure that there's nobody in my shot and blah, blah, blah. And that always, for me, was always so incredibly intimidating. I admire somebody who can do that. But
Right.
for me, that was like, that I'll never reach that level. And so before we started with AI, that was how I looked at AI. It sounds all very complicated, language, large language models. No idea what that is. And so instead of saying, am I doing it right? I'm just, my question is like, where's the joy in this? And so I'm like, let's just see what it does.
Uh-huh.
And let's just not have, although I have a purpose in my life and for what I want to do and accomplish.
Right.
But for this right now,
Uh-huh.
my purpose is simply to enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, and not come with it has to look. So I'm not going to mid journey and say, give me a picture that looks like blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
and dictating it in full. But instead, I'm giving some ideas, some words, some verbiage. And first time I tried this, the results were horrible. And then in the training, I learned a couple of ways to phrase it. And I was like, oh, I can do that. So let me do that. And then you get these different things. And now I'm like, so what would happen if I did this? What would happen if I do that? And instead of wanting a preconceived outcome that has to match what I have in mind, instead I'm like, okay, what would happen? So I feel like I'm experimenting. I'm an inventor, or if you will, and I'm a creator in a way that I just look and see what comes out. And then I say, hey, I like that. I'm going to keep that. That I don't like. So I won't do that again. And it makes it very good for me to learn and to just make these tools my own.
That's so perfect. And welcome to you, Frederic, and welcome to everybody listening to what I call the Explorer Inventor Club. I love this idea of being an explorer and an inventor. And you're doing that. You're just having so much fun trying different things. And sometimes the results don't really match up with what you envision. But that's actually what's beautiful about it is there are so many happy accidents that surprise us once we really get going and we get through those initial kind of like, that wasn't exactly what I had in mind phases. And we go to the point of where we're like, I want to try something. And then it comes back and we're like, whoa, I can't believe that result. It's so much more than I envisioned. So, Frederic, if you were to go back, if you had some magic way of going back in time to your 10-year-old self,
Mhm.
what would you tell your 10-year-old self about this journey that you're starting on now, this AI journey? What would you tell that young Frederic about AI?
I would probably tell that young Frederick who would be who played a lot with Lego, inventing everything.
Yeah.
This was before you get the prepackaged, this is what you're going to
Yeah.
build, and here's everything is pre shaped. So I would build my houses, created my own piano, of course, and did all these things. And I'm going to say, you know what? Later in life, just when you think you've forgotten how to play and how to have fun and how to create without expectations upfront, but with appreciation, right? Later in life, there's going to be this new thing, this new way of doing things, and you're going to have so much fun, and then you're going to be able to play with it. You're going to appreciate what it does. Sometimes it will be frustrating, and that's all okay. At the end of the day, for those who have a high need for certainty, you're still in control.
Yeah.
You you play and you can say, I like this, I don't like that.
Mm.
And you can still decide what you take, what you not, what you leave. And so just because you're using it doesn't mean you become it. Just like you don't become the knife and the fork when you eat.
Yeah. You're just using the tool and you have that full control. I love that you brought that to our attention because it's so important that people actually remember that it actually is something that they can have a sense of safety about because they can pick and choose what they're actually using. And in fact, it might even give you more feelings of control and certainty and safety because AI never judges you. You can go and you can ask it about things that you're not sure of. And maybe you thought it was a dumb question if you were to ask somebody else. You can just
Mhm.
go ahead. It's never going to judge you.
Yeah,
You're safe.
exactly.
I love that. I think your 10-year-old self would love that just as much as you do. Is there one thing that comes to mind if you had a perfect AI assistant and it could do it perfectly for you? What would that be? One thing that, I don't know, it could be something you don't like doing. It could be something that you just it takes up too much time. But if you had an AI assistant that could do one thing perfectly, what would that be?
Cleaning my house. Um,
Right?
I actually said that to my husband and my kids. I was like, okay, I'm learning all these things about AI. The one thing I haven't figured out yet is how to use it to clean my house. However, we'll have AI in robots,
Yeah,
and those two combined,
for
they're going to
sure.
do a fantastic job in keeping my house clean.
For sure. It's already in the works and it is going to be exciting. I too am right there with you. I would much rather have something else doing that cleaning. I also make a little protein shake every morning and I like making it for the most part, but I could really use some more assistance when it comes to washing the kale or washing the lettuce, whatever it is. There are things that I think you and I, as creative explorer inventors, would rather do. So to wrap
Yeah.
things up, I do want to revisit that thing that you briefly talked about. Where's the love and joy in your AI journey as you're beginning on this adventure? Where's the love and joy for Frederick?
It is there every day. And every day that I play around a little bit, I just get a smile on my face. There's definitely the joy. I started with AI like from a being threatened position.
Mhm.
If you don't know how to use AI, you're going to be out of business in 5 years. As a company, you won't exist. The world will take you over, will pass you by, and all these
Mm.
things. And so I didn't necessarily, from that perspective, come with a lot of love or joy to AI. And seeing some of the fun ways that AI can just bring a little extras into your life, like the picture that you created with the dragon, the origami dragon. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that is so cool. Right. Oh, I can use AI to create things. And I think that for me was eye opening. Doing a song for a loved one. And I was like, that's so cool. So it's given me the love and joy is in the fact that it's opened up creative avenues that I can use to show my appreciation, my love, my joy for or with people that I care about.
Yeah. That's it exactly. Oh man. Frederick, I have loved speaking with you. This has been a pure joy for me. And your example of moving forward and going on those first steps of that adventure is an inspiration to me. And I know it will be an inspiration to our audience who are also thinking about taking those first steps. And maybe they've heard of those kind of more threatening things too. It's going to steal our jobs. And maybe they've heard the more true statement that people say, no, AI is not going to steal your jobs, but people who know how to do AI might. Either way,
Right.
we're moving from those fear-based places to love and joy. It is so much fun to create in this supercharged way. It's like a hammer or a drill is a really good tool when you have a hand one, but when you get a power drill and you're just like and putting in those screws or drilling those holes supercharged, super fast, it's a whole new level of productivity and creativity.
And with that added productivity, it gives you also more time to be intentional when you're with, for instance, spending time with somebody. I'll have some extra time and I can say, okay, I'm going to spend this hour that AI helped me save by catching up with a good friend of mine that I haven't spoken to for a while. Or I'm gonna sit next to my husband and kinda interrupt his book reading and say, "Hey, let's have some fun. Let's have some quality time. Let's go out for a drink or let's go out for some supper."
I love it. I'm a big Fortnite fan, and I don't allow myself to play the game too much because I want to be productive. But when we wrapped up our AI Productivity Powerhouse weekend,
Mhm.
I celebrated by just saying to my son, "Hey, do you want to play?" And he was all over it. And we played one game, 15 minutes, and we won. So we're like, "Yeah." And it was like a magic moment between father and son. It's something I'll never forget. And I was
Yeah,
able to get to that point by this super productive method that we've done. You're absolutely right. You're going to have more time to do what you really feel more fulfilled doing. And that's usually spending time with people you love. The studies that we've all heard about always say that when people get to the end of their life, they don't say, God, I wish I would have spent more time at the office. They often say, I really wish I would have spent more time with my loved ones and really had present quality time. And you're going to be able
yeah,
to do that with this new supercharged way of getting creative content made. So
right.
I love it. And I love you, appreciate you for being on this awesome
Ah,
show and giving
thanks
giving
for
your
having me.
absolutely 100%. And I like to always end the show just by saying, now we're cooking. Because it's AI easy as pie. Now we're cooking with this creativity. We're really going forward, producing content. All those times in the past when we let that little mind think, God, what if I mess up? And then it didn't have us produce even something imperfectly. Now we're making something, and it may not be perfect the first time. Like you're baking cookies, you're never gonna know if you got the recipe right until you try it and somebody takes a bite and says, You could use a little less salt, and you could be doing a little bit better." So now we're cooking, and I can't wait to see what you produce as one of the first AI, even more empowered coaches, and you're just gonna be blessing so many people. So
Yeah, I
thank
sure
you.
hope so. That would be my goal. But thank you. Thank you for your encouragement and for showing me that, again, it was okay to step away from fear and just become curious. And once you make that mind shift,
Mhm.
yeah, it's AI all the way.
You're
And
off
it's
to the
easy
races.
as apple pie, rhubarb pie, meringue pie, key lime pie. You don't have to decide which pie. You just have any pie
I
you
love it.
want.
I love it. Let's go out and enjoy having some pie, and let's go out and enjoy cooking. Let's have a lot of fun. Thank you again, Frederique. And thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time. AI easy as pie. In the meantime, have fun playing and creating. Bye for now.